All right, everyone, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the world of DeSci.
DeSci.
Yeah, decentralized science.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's a fascinating concept that's been making waves, and frankly, it has the potential to completely revolutionize how we approach scientific progress.
I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
So we're going to be unpacking the insights of a true visionary in this space, Juan Benet.
Ah, the man behind IPFS and Filecoin.
Exactly. We're going to take a deep dive into this YouTube seminar he did, where he lays out a really compelling vision of the future of science.
A future where it's not just, confined to these elite institutions.
Yeah, it's about collaboration, it's about transparency, and honestly, I sense a little bit of that rebellious spirit too.
Oh, I like where this is going. What's Benet's take on all this?
Well, he kicks things off with this powerful statement. Science is the engine of progress.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Right. But then he goes on to say, and this is where it gets interesting, he says, this engine, as powerful as it is kind of sputtering. Yeah. Like we're trying to win a race with a car that's stuck in second gear.
I feel that. We've got all this potential, but something's holding us back.
Exactly. And Benet argues that a big part of the problem is that science is bogged down by outdated systems.
Okay, so what's the solution? We just scrap the whole thing and start over?
No, not at all. It's not about abandoning the scientific method. It's about turbocharging it for the 21st century.
Okay, I like the sound of that. But how do we actually do that?
Well, that's where DeSci comes in. Benet believes that by leveraging Web3 technologies, we can create a much more efficient and democratic scientific ecosystem.
Web3, so we're talking blockchain, cryptocurrency, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Things like IPFS, which stands for Interplanetary File System.
Okay, that sounds pretty intense. What is that exactly?
So imagine this. Instead of your research data being stuck on a single computer or server, it's distributed across an entire network.
Interesting. So it's accessible from anywhere by anyone.
In theory, yes. And because it's decentralized, it's also much harder to lose and much easier for others to access and verify.
Okay, starting to get the picture. So instead of those dusty old file cabinets and paywalled journals, we have this open, interconnected web of knowledge.
You got it. And this is just scratching the surface.
There's more.
Oh, there's so much more. We haven't even touched upon how Day tackles funding challenges, which Benet argues is a major roadblock to scientific progress.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Let's talk funding.
So we're really talking about reimagining the whole system, right?
Yeah.
Moving away from this kind of old school model of relying solely on government grants or the whims of venture capitalists.
And that old school model, it has its limitations, right? It can be slow, it can be bureaucratic, and it doesn't always reward the most impactful research.
Exactly. So how does DeSci tackle this? How do we break free from those old constraints?
Well, Benet points to a few key innovations. One that he's particularly excited about is quadratic funding.
Quadratic funding. Okay, that sounds a little intimidating, like some complex mathematical formula.
It does, doesn't it? But it's actually a really elegant solution. Imagine this.
Yeah.
You want to support cancer research, right?
Of course, who doesn't?
Exactly. So you make a small donation to a project that you believe in.
Okay.
Now, with quadratic funding, your donation isn't just counted one-to-one. Instead, it's amplified by an algorithm that recognizes the level of support that project is receiving from the community.
Interesting. So the more people believe in a project, the more funding it attracts.
Precisely. It's like a collective intelligence boost for science funding. Projects with broad-based support, even if they're from smaller donors, get a funding boost, ensuring that the most promising research doesn't fall by the wayside just because it might not have, a billionaire backer.
I love that. It's a true democratization of funding, like empowering the crowd to decide which research matters most.
And that's really the beauty of it. It's not just about where the money's coming from, it's about who gets to decide where it goes.
Okay, so that's quadratic funding. What else is on the table here?
Yeah.
Benet also mentioned something called retroactive funding in his seminar. What's that all about?
Ah, yes. Retroactive funding. It's almost like rewarding scientific time travelers.
Time travelers.
Think about it. Some of the most groundbreaking discoveries, they don't always have immediate applications, right?
Sure.
It might take years, even decades, for their true impact to be fully realized.
Right, like research that lays the groundwork for future breakthroughs.
Exactly. And that's where retroactive funding comes in. It's about creating a system where researchers working on those long-term, high-risk, high-reward projects can be rewarded down the line based on the ultimate impact of their work.
So even if it's not immediately profitable, if it has the potential to change the world, those researchers still get the recognition and the funding they deserve.
Precisely. It's about aligning incentives for the long game, for the research that might not seem sexy today, but could revolutionize entire industries tomorrow.
I can see how that would be a game changer, encouraging more scientists to tackle those really big, hairy, audacious problems that could benefit us all.
Exactly. And, this ties into Benet's vision of a more sustainable and regenerative funding loop for science, where impact begets more impact.
It's like planting seeds for a future harvest we may not even be around to fully enjoy, but knowing that we contributed to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And this leads us to another really interesting concept that Benet talks about, focused research organizations, or FROs.
FROs.
Yeah. So think of them kind of like startups within the scientific world.
Okay, so more agile, more focused than, say, a traditional research university.
Exactly. FROs are designed to be nimble, they're hyper-focused on tackling specific problems, and they're not bogged down by the bureaucracy that can sometimes stifle innovation in more traditional settings.
So less red tape, more breakthroughs.
Exactly. And because FROs are often working on problems with clear, real-world applications, they're also more attractive to investors who are looking for, a return on their investment.
Right, it makes sense. But it's not just about the money, right? There's also the question of how we actually track the lineage of scientific progress.
Yeah.
How do we connect the dots between these groundbreaking discoveries and their real-world impact?
That's a great question, and it's something that Benet is really passionate about. He talks about building what he calls a credit attribution system for science.
Credit attribution system. So like a way to trace back from, say, a life-saving medical treatment to the fundamental research that made it possible.
Exactly. It's about creating a transparent record of who contributed what so that everyone involved in the process of scientific discovery gets the credit they deserve.
And the funding.
Yes, because if we can clearly see which research is leading to tangible real-world benefits, we can direct more funding to those areas.
Right, making the whole system more efficient and effective.
Exactly. And to make this whole credit attribution system work, DeSci relies on something called hypercerts.
Hypercerts, okay. Break that down for me.
Essentially, hypercerts are like digital certificates that track and verify contributions to a scientific project. So let's say you contribute some code to an open source software project that's being used in cancer research.
What?
You would receive a hypercert that verifies your contribution. And then down the line, if that software leads to the development of a breakthrough cancer treatment, your hypercert is there to prove that you played a role in making it happen.
Wow. So it's like a transparent ledger for scientific progress, ensuring that everyone gets their due credit.
Exactly. And it creates a powerful incentive for collaboration because the more you contribute to the scientific commons, the more recognition and rewards you stand to gain.
Okay, this is all starting to really come together now.
Yeah.
But we've mainly been focused on the funding side of things. Benet also seems incredibly passionate about open access to information, a core tenet of the DeSci movement. How does that fit into all of this?
It's all connected, right? Because if we want to accelerate scientific progress, we need to break down the barriers that prevent information from flowing freely.
Right, those paywalls and data silos that prevent researchers from building on each other's work.
And that's where DESC's emphasis on open access comes in. Remember we were talking about IPFS earlier?
Yeah, the interplanetary file system, that decentralized storage network.
Right. So imagine a world where research data, instead of being locked away behind journal paywalls or scattered across individual researchers' hard drives, is stored and shared openly using IPFS.
Making it easily accessible to anyone with an internet connection.
Exactly. And because it's decentralized, it's much more difficult for any single entity to censor or restrict access to that information.
It's like breaking down the walls of the ivory tower and making knowledge truly accessible to everyone.
And think about the possibilities. When researchers from all over the world can easily access and build upon each other's work, who knows what amazing breakthroughs we could see.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Exactly. But it's not just about access to raw data either. Benet also talks about the importance of reproducibility in science.
Right, the idea that a scientific study should be replicable, that other scientists should be able to get the same results using the same methods.
Exactly. Reproducibility is absolutely crucial for ensuring the integrity of scientific research. But as Benet points out, it's become a real challenge in recent years.
Why is that?
Well, for a number of reasons. Sometimes the data itself gets lost or becomes corrupted over time, or the software used to analyze that data becomes outdated and incompatible with newer systems.
So it's like trying to bake a cake from a recipe where half the ingredients are missing and the oven doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it can be incredibly frustrating. And that's where DeSci offers a solution by promoting the use of containerization tools. Think of containers like little self-contained digital environments that package up all the software and data needed to run an experiment.
Okay, so it's like giving future scientists a time machine to travel back and see exactly how a study was conducted.
Exactly. With containers, anyone, anywhere can potentially reproduce the findings of a scientific study, even if the original data or software is no longer available.
That makes science far more robust and trustworthy.
Exactly. And it helps us avoid chasing after false leads or spending time and resources trying to replicate results that weren't actually valid in the first place.
It all sounds incredibly promising. But is it really feasible to expect this kind of radical shift in how science is done?
That's the million-dollar question, right? But what I find really exciting about DeSci is that it's not just some abstract idea. There are already very concrete projects and initiatives underway that are proving that this vision is within reach.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll definitely make sure to include links to some of those in the show notes for our listeners who want to dive deeper.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, there's one more piece of the DeSci puzzle we need to explore: decentralized computing networks.
Decentralized computing. Okay, now we're getting really futuristic. What's that all about?
This is where things get really interesting. Imagine a global network of computers all working together to process massive data sets, run complex simulations, all without the need for a central authority.
So instead of relying on these expensive supercomputers, scientists could tap into this global, decentralized network to power their research.
Exactly. And because this computing power is distributed across so many different machines, it's also much more resilient. No single point of failure.
Okay, so it's more powerful, it's more resilient, and it's potentially much more affordable than traditional computing infrastructure.
Precisely. And there are already platforms that are making this a reality. Filecoin, for example, allows anyone to rent out their unused hard drive space to create a decentralized storage network.
That's amazing. So you could be sitting at home watching Netflix, and your computer could be contributing to groundbreaking scientific research in the background.
Exactly. And that's what I find so inspiring about DeSci. It's not just about changing who funds science or how it's conducted. It's about creating a future where everyone can participate in the process of scientific discovery.
I love that. Democratizing science for the 21st century.
Exactly. And in the process, we might just unlock solutions to some of humanity's greatest challenges.
Okay, I am so on board with this vision. Before we wrap things up, let's shift gears for a moment and consider the potential implications of all this. If DeSci really takes off, if it becomes the new normal for how science is done, what impact might it have on our lives, on our understanding of the universe, even on the future of humanity itself? It really is a mind-blowing concept when you think about it, this idea of a future where science is truly a global, collaborative endeavor.
It is. And you know, it's not just about the big picture stuff either. It's about the everyday implications as well.
What do you mean?
Think about the things that affect our daily lives. Medicine, energy, technology.
Okay, yeah.
If DeSci delivers on even a fraction of its promise, we could see breakthroughs in those areas at a pace we've never seen before.
So we're talking faster cures for diseases, more efficient renewable energy, maybe even like personalized medicine tailored to our individual DNA.
Exactly. Imagine a world where instead of waiting decades for new treatments and technologies, they're being developed and deployed in years, even months.
It's like science fiction becoming reality.
It is. And, you know, let's not forget about the potential impact on our understanding of the universe.
Oh, right. With all this decentralized computing power, who knows what mysteries we could unravel?
Exactly. We could be on the verge of unlocking secrets of the cosmos that have eluded us for centuries.
It's incredible to think about. But beyond those tangible outcomes, you know, the cures, the technologies, the discoveries,
Yeah.
I think DeSci has the potential to change something even more fundamental.
Oh, and what's that?
Our relationship with knowledge itself.
That's an interesting thought. How so?
Well, right now, science can feel kind of, I don't know, exclusive.
Exclusive. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like it's something that happens in these ivory towers reserved for people with PhDs and lab coats.
Yeah, there's definitely a barrier there for most people.
Exactly. But DeSci has the potential to break down those barriers, to make scientific knowledge a shared resource, a global commons that everyone can contribute to and benefit from.
I like that. Democratizing knowledge, making it accessible to everyone.
Exactly. And I think that shifting perspective, that sense of collective ownership over scientific progress, could be just as transformative as any specific discovery or invention.
It's about fostering a spirit of curiosity and collaboration on a global scale.
Exactly. It's about empowering anyone, anywhere, to ask big questions, to explore new frontiers, to contribute to our collective understanding of the universe.
It's a powerful vision, and one that I think is worth striving for.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, on that inspiring note, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have, from the nitty-gritty of blockchain technology to the philosophical implications of open access knowledge.
It's been quite a journey, and we've only just scratched the surface of what DeSci could potentially achieve.
Exactly. This is just the beginning of the conversation.
And we want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on DeSci? Does it live up to the hype? What excites you most about this movement? Head over to our website or find us on social media and let us know.
We'll make sure to include links to all the resources we mentioned in the show notes as well, so you can dive deeper into any of the topics that piqued your interest.
And until next time, keep those minds curious, and remember, the future of science is in all of our hands.
Cheers to that.